So what's new in CSS3? Just like HTML and HTML5, CSS has been around and CSS3 was the first one that really came out with kind of a unique name to it. It was given a unique name because there was such a major upgrade to this version. It allowed for a lot of cool extra things that we can do now that we really couldn't do in the past. So CSS3 is now the latest standard for CSS programming, and it's backward compatible with all CSS versions, so most browsers are able to play it and take advantage of it now. It fixed a lot of bugs that were in CSS2 and even got some JavaScript-like capabilities. Now, CSS3 has also addressed a number of mobile development concerns, accounting for responsive design and making up for issues that were caused by things like Adobe Flash and incompatibility with mobile devices. So in combination with JavaScript, CSS3 has a lot of the functionality of Flash, like with animation and interactivity-wise. So here are 7 of the major things that differentiate CSS3 from the previous versions. 1. Mobile-first mentality. And this is such a key thing. So CSS3 inherently supports responsive design, and it's equipped to handle media queries. Media queries are calls made by the code to determine what device and screen size a user is using to view that site on. Now this adds a whole new responsive design capability to the CSS repertoire. 2. Module-based code. Now one of the biggest developments that's in CSS3 is it's split into modules. Now all the old CSS specifications have been migrated over to the new version and divided into smaller pieces. We'll take a look at these a little bit more in detail later in the class. Web font support. Now this has given designers a lot more access to web-safe fonts, which previously we were kind of limited to just a few different fonts. Web-safe fonts are fonts that every single computer has installed and is able to recognize, where previously it was only the fonts that you knew every computer had on its own local desktop. So if a designer used common fonts like Times or Arial, they could pretty much guarantee that any user would have these. However, if you wanted to use a more rare font that was a little bit more stylized and designed, it was maybe not supported on most other people's computers, so it would default back to just any kind of random font. So now designers can run web fonts in CSS3 forward. It enables faster development and faster load times. Now this is key because this is a huge SEO factor for Google. So what used to require background images, CSS can now achieve using visual enhancements, which saves developers time in production. This cuts down on calls and load times for numerous images because those effects all built up in the code. Also, pages load faster thanks to the overall smaller file sizes and fewer calls. 5. Creating 2D and 3D transformations, animations, and transitions. This is so cool. These effects allow elements on a page to do things like rotate and grow and shrink and flip and transform and change colors. So for the first time, these elements created in CSS can move on the screen without requiring things like JavaScript and Flash to animate them. With transitions, an element can seamlessly change size and color. You can set the duration for the transition, like creating a button that slowly expands and changes color when you mouse over it. 6. New colors and image effects. CSS3 now supports new colors and gradient colors that allows for adjustments to opacity. Another cool thing is that it supports rounded image corners. It's an effect that requires a lot of formatting in Photoshop to work and achieve this in the past. 7. Box sizing has fixed some annoying alignment problems. So box sizing allows developers to get the sizing of elements right without having to subtract dimensions for padding and borders and things like that. So with box sizing property, the padding and border are all included in the width and height. So again, those are some of the major upgrades from CSS to CSS3, and we'll be taking a closer look at a lot of these things as we go throughout the class.